Today, I'm talking to Mark Haldeman of Christie's in Aspen, Colorado. In business for 26 years, Mark consistently ranks in the top 5% of all brokers for sales in the Aspen area. Recently in his career, on 2 separate occasions, he has represented the sellers of the highest priced single-family home sale in Aspen. The second of those was the closing of Aspen Summit House for $29.5 million in 2015. The first of those was in 2011. He brokered both sides, the listing and selling side, of a $20.75 million Aspen estate. Today, we talk about how to establish the best clients and determine the best brokerage. Thanks for listening to the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. This podcast was created for real estate agents across the country to come together, sharing ideas to take your, their, and our business to the next level. All right, everybody, it's the Jere Metcalf podcast, where top real estate agents tell how they do it. And today we have Mark Haldeman of Aspen, Colorado, telling us how he does it. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Awesome to have you. So tell us, well, I'm going to brag on you a little bit for those of you who are watching this live or didn't hear the intro. Mark has an agent in Aspen, where it's pretty much the most expensive market in Colorado, if not the country. You've done record-breaking deals in that market. At 1 year, you did one at $20.75 million. You've done one another year that was a record-breaking deal. These are single-family home deals, $29.5 million. You sold a penthouse at the highest square foot price in the market, which was a $3,000 per square foot on a penthouse. So clearly, you've got a little edge and a lot to share, and that we can learn from you. And we are also going to talk to everybody about, he is a broker of 26 years. He's been with 3 brokerages, and a little bit about how do you know, what is your how much does the broker matter? And when you make a decision like that, how do you make it? How do you know it's right? So let's rewind and start back with you and your career. Tell us a little bit about how you got into it, how you warm us up into your transactions, and then we'll go from there.
Sure. That sounds great. Well, I moved to Aspen in 1984. So I've been an Aspen resident for 35 years. For 25 years of those, I've been in the real estate business. Prior to my real estate career, I had a men's and ladies clothing store in downtown Aspen called Mark Justin, and it was extremely successful from the day we opened it till the day we closed it. However, towards the latter part of my career in that industry, I had the opportunity to buy the building that housed the operations, and I did, and consequently, I bought myself out of a job. So in trying to search for the next adventure, I just realized how much I enjoyed the aspect of buying the building, and thought, well, a real estate career might be great. So in 1994, I hung out my shingle, so to say, and have been selling real estate ever since. I'm a little over $800 million in career sales over that time period. And as you mentioned, I've twice in my career, I've had the highest priced single family home sale in the state of Colorado for each one of those years. In 2012, I brokered both sides of a $20.75 million deal, and that was the highest priced single family home sale in the state of Colorado in that year. And then in 2015, I brokered the selling side of a single family home sale there for $29.5 million. And that was the highest priced single family home in the state of Colorado for that year as well. So it's been a great career. I've gotten to know and call some of the wealthiest people in the world my friends. It's nice to know that when you call them, they'll actually pick up the phone and take your call. So it's been a great career for me. I have no regrets whatsoever. I just recently made a transition. I moved from a Sotheby's brokerage firm there to become a partner at Christie's. And that's been a fantastic career move for me. We're in the process of relocating to a A+ location right in the downtown core of Aspen. We're going to be right across the street from the Aspen Mountain Gondola. So anybody that goes skiing is going to see the Christie's bright and shiny name right in front of their face. And I'm also been put in charge of recruiting and getting new brokers. And so that's been a great aspect of my career. It's really been a great way to sort of reignite the flame for the real estate business for me after all these years.
Wow, that's exciting. So, question. How do you, we're going to start back at the beginning of these big transactions you've done, and then we're going to evolve back into, because I want everybody to really get a feel of how you do business, because I know if I don't do that, everybody will be upset that they didn't get to hear how this guy, you've been on the episode before, on an earlier, I think you were well before episode 100, and we're going to be at about episode 150 for this. But how did you make it? What was your cutting edge? And then I want to also talk about, again, how do you know when to make a change? So that being said, how did you break into the industry, and what do you think it is that, got a lot of people can get in front of the right people, but they can't get the deals done?
Right. Well, my retail career, my shop was a very, very high-end shop. So I met all the famous people. I met all the celebrities. There's some, funny stories that I can tell you. I came out of the back office one day, and I was looking across my store, and at the very front of our store, we had this huge armoire, and we stuffed it full of sweaters. And I looked across at this armoire, and there was this human being that was in front of my armoire that was literally as big as my armoire. And he turned around, and it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. So
wow,
couldn't fit him in anything, but he really liked our clothes. And we met all the celebrities. We met all the very, very wealthiest people because we catered to that crowd base. So for me, perhaps it was a little easier transition than most because I'd already established myself in Aspen as a trustworthy, recognizable face and recognizable name. And that made it a lot easier for me, I think, than most to transition into the real estate business. I think, for lack of a better word, my reputation might have preceded me a little bit. So it made it easier for me to get in front of those types of people than perhaps most.
So how did you, when you're in business, a lot of people perceived you, they respect, well, a few words I think are key are, the right people, sure, but the key word was trustworthy, is that you had the relationships and you were trustworthy. And also being in that industry, there's a level of hospitality that you understand and the nuances of it that you're not going to understand unless you're in it and you live it, or you really make sure you find a way to do that. And that already happened naturally for you. But still, on the other end, you own the clothing store. You weren't selling real estate. So how did you get that first deal?
You put yourself out there, basically I tried to make myself as available as I possibly could. Again, I think everyone was aware of who I am and kind of the things that I stood for. I don't, it's been so long now. It's been 25 years now since I made that transition. I don't specifically recall, my first big deal. But it was more about just getting yourself out there, getting your name out there, and being recognizable. When people come to a small community like Aspen, you got to remember we're a small town. We're only 6,500 people. So you have the ability to stand out in a crowd if you do the right things. And we made ourselves known. We did a lot of marketing. We did a lot of local publications. This was sort of pre-internet. If you will.
You really had to spend money on the print marketing.
Yeah, on the print market was heavily done. And, it just all sort of fell into place for me.
Be available, put yourself out there, and you got to do the marketing. You got to spend the money on the marketing. What's your biggest advice on marketing and spending money, and where you feel like you get your return in the Aspen market?
For us, again, it's a small town. So everybody comes into town, they pick up the Aspen Daily News or the Aspen Times, we call them the rag sheets, to see what's going on. And so we have a little bit more of a distinct advantage in that regard than maybe say like you in Atlanta or somebody in a major metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Right. There's only one place where people can go for like a news source. And that's the newspapers. And so, do a lot of full page ads in that section, and full color, and don't scrimp. There's a lot of guys that are in the help wanted ads type of thing with their little picture. We always came up with full page ads and full color, and I think that made an impact. And we've transitioned obviously into the internet world, and now we're all over Instagram and social media. I can't give you a bar as to how that's paid off or if it's paid off, but I know if you don't do it, you're behind the times.
Exactly. Well, I love that you say that, I think, because there are a lot of different frames of mind about marketing. Some are when you put your money in, count what the leads, count the business, count the whatever that you get out of it. That's that would be more of a transactional based business. Your business is focused on, rather than how many units am I doing, it's quality relationship, quality of the transaction, great big price points. And in doing that, you tell me, but it's branding and positioning.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure like in most markets, 5% of the brokers in our market do 95% of the business. And so once you've reached that plateau,
everybody in your market is an agent.
Pretty much, yeah.
I shouldn't have finished what you said. I'm interrupting you, but
yeah. Well, you're right about that. We're a town of 6,500 people, and I think there's 650 licensees in town. So, 1 in every 10 people that you meet's got a real estate license. But that doesn't mean they're all good. The cream rises to the top in any market, and so if you're effective with your marketing dollars, if you stay true to yourself and true to your ideals, I think that's the payoff.
Yeah, sure. I've heard a lot ideals, true to your ideals, be consistent in what you do. And again, tell me about, I'm just thinking out loud with everybody, but connecting the dots on your deals, because there are a lot of people that might sell, might not sell. Do you have any stories that you could give us on developing these relationships and meeting people and how it went from the conversation to the transaction? Do you focus on one person, or do you focus on like kind of the network bringing things your way, or do you find yourself going and honing in on a deal, or a little bit of both, or how does that look?
In the early stages of my career, I really tried to focus on referrals and client-based referrals, and I found that if you can, with high net worth people, they're really thinking about two things. They want to find somebody who's trustworthy, and they want to find somebody that won't waste their time. Because that's one thing that high net worth people can't do. They can't buy more time, right? So those are the things that I was very cognizant of to start with. I also was really cognizant of the fact that if I called somebody, I wanted them to pick up the phone, not to say, "Oh God, here's that Mark Haldeman guy again." And I go so far as to tell my clients that you're not going to hear from me. I'm not going to bug you on a weekly basis or even a monthly basis. But when I do call, it's important, and I want you to. There's something that I really want you to know about. So, and they appreciate that, because they live busy lives and they've got their deals that they're doing, and so it's, I just wanted to set a precedence with them and say, look, I'm not going to call you all the time, but when I do, I really appreciate it if you answer the phone, because I've got something really important to tell you, and that's gone a long way for me. So my referral business is the key to my business. I don't really go out and solicit a lot of clients. I don't do cold calls. I don't do any of that sort of stuff. And never.
I imagine cold calls don't go well in Aspen.
They don't. There's some guys that make a career out of it. It's not me. I've strictly focused on the referral business, and it's never let me down. And here's why. When a previous client thinks of enough of you to refer someone to you, you gain instant credibility with that client, and you gain instant loyalty as long as you do what you say you're going to do. And that's been paramount for me for my entire career. Do what you say you're going to do, and do it when you say you're going to do it. And I think people have come to appreciate that.
What is your biggest advice in negotiating? Well, two, I think of a couple of things. When you're negotiating deals with high net worth clients, it's you establishing standing with people who make, a lot more money than we do. You're talking about billionaires, and they're doing big deals and negotiating big deals, and now they're coming to you to sell a house. And how do you make sure you maintain standing when things get heated and things get rough?
I just stay true to myself. a lot of times in my business, I get frustrated with brokers who don't stand up for themselves. High net worth people, or anybody for that matter, hire you because of your experience and your expertise in the field. And if you don't stand up for yourself and let that experience speak for itself and your expertise speak for itself, you'll get run over. And a lot of times you end up not doing deals. And I've had several instances of that in recent times where people are like, well, my seller told me I got to do this, or my seller told me I got to do that. I'm like, no, you need to tell your seller. That's why they come to you. They come to you for your expertise. And so, a crossroad period for me was several years ago when I realized that I have to tell people exactly what I believe. I don't want to tell them what they want to hear. I tell them what I really believe is important or pertinent to that particular situation.
You kind of know.
You do, yeah.
6 years.
But a lot of people won't, even though they know, a lot of people won't stand up and say that. They won't, and it's not putting them in their place. It's just telling them what you really believe and what you believe from your heart, and that's never let me down. You just got to. Again, people come to you for a reason. They come to you because you've got the most experience in the field. You've got a reputation for working with high net worth people. You've got a reputation for getting the jobs done. And you absolutely just have to lay it out there and say, this is my advice to you. You don't have to take it, but this is what I'm telling you is how we should handle this particular situation. And people come to appreciate that. They really do.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, that is some of the best advice, because in a competitive industry, especially when you're in Aspen and you've got one agent for every 10 people, there's a lot. I mean, I'm sure they're not all great agents, but there's still a lot of people. There are a lot of agents who are going to tell someone what they want to hear. So the temptation might run high just to hang on to the client, to just give them what they want to hear because somebody else is going to.
Right. Yeah. And see, I think that's just the exact opposite. I think you'll hang on to the client when you tell them exactly how it is. That's my belief.
And what I love about that, and I would wonder what you think, but I think that higher net worth, or less time, usually, not always, but they have, time is the last. Leonard Steinberg always says, time is the last luxury. You can't buy more time.
Right.
And that being said, that when you get clients who are like, no, really, I heard you to tell me what I need to know, and they respect that and they stick by that. And I would think that your clientele definitely is more of that caliber, as opposed to sometimes you get things a little bit differently. Like, you tell me what I don't want to hear, and you're not my client anymore. But I think the important message too is that's probably not the right client.
Right. Yeah.
Let them learn.
And I have the fortune now at this stage of my career to be selective with my client base. And that's a really nice luxury to have, trust me.
Yeah, exactly. So being a broker that's broken records just a few times in Aspen and really works in a nice price point and has established trust, respect, all of those things that a lot of agents, every agent aspires to be. Tell us a little bit about, we're going to start with the beginning of your career. What is a broker? What is the importance of a broker? What does it matter? Why does it matter? How did you pick your first broker, second broker, and current broker?
I started in the business with a friend. We were at a firm called Kelly Properties, and he was one of my very best friends. He'd been in the business for a very long time. It was a small firm, and it just felt good. It just felt like the right place and the comfortable place to be. And then I moved over to another firm called Coast Reed & Waldron, which was a fairly established firm in the Aspen area. They recruited me heavily. I made a real reasonable deal with them. I felt it was a good transition because I wanted to get into more of a situation where I could lean a little bit more on the company, get a little bit more from a referral aspect, walk-in client base, that sort of thing. And that went very well. They were really high into the rental market. So a lot of people who, when you come to Aspen, you don't come to Aspen and just call somebody up and say, hey, I'm coming to Aspen in December. I want to buy a $15 million house so I can stay there. Everybody starts with a rental. So rentals were really important, and they had a really huge rental business. So there was a lot of referring going on between the rental market and the brokerage market at Coates, Reed & Walden. And that's where I learned about the rental business. And it's not applicable to all areas, but any resort area, whether it be, South Florida or the Rocky Mountains or California to a certain extent, rentals are really important, and you can't ignore them because rentals lead to sales. And I learned that really, really quickly. So when I transferred over to Sotheby's from there, and the reason I left Coates, Reed & Walden was they merged with a company called Resort Quest, and it just wasn't the same anymore. And it actually basically went belly up after that. And so I moved over to Sotheby's, and I've been there for 15 years. And I did that for all the same reasons, high impact name, quality brokerage firms, great networking opportunities, all the things that
that's how we met.
Yeah. As a previous Sotheby's broker as well. Those were all great things, but there was one thing for me that was missing, and that was a piece of the action. And Christie's had been recruiting me for a long time. They're actually new to our market, but the firm that they incorporated with had been chasing me for a long time. And I kept saying, well, the only reason that I'm going to move is if you offer me some sort of a partnership. And it finally came down to it this past year that they said, okay, we're ready. We want to make an impact in the market, and we want to hire some high-profile brokers. We'll offer you a piece of the action. And with that, I jumped at it. It was just an opportunity. And again, it's revitalized my career. It's revitalized energy for me, because now we just finished up. I negotiated a lease for the company. We're taking a very, very high profile location right in the heart of downtown Aspen. You won't be able to miss us. We're across the street from the Aspen Mountain Gondola, and it's going to be as high visible of a location as possible. I was paramount in negotiating that lease and finding that space. I'm also paramount with recruiting now and finding new brokers that will help us build the business. And when I came over, we were about $150 million a year company. Our goal is to hit 350 in the next 3 years and go over 500 in 5 years. So it's fun to be able to have that input. It's fun to be wanted amongst your peers. It's fun to have your peers come to you for advice. And those are all things that have really made me rethink the business and be excited about where I am.
Synergy within anybody in any situation, it's synergy and alignment with the company that you're with and the direction that you're going. It's like The Energy Bus, which it's kind of a cheesy book, but have you read it?
No, I haven't. So
Erin Kruger, she's in Nashville, Tennessee. She does 500 transactions a year. I mean, it's like complete you two are, but you would love her. She does do some high-end properties as well, but she's a machine. But Energy Bus came from her, but the book talks about, whatever bus you're on, you got to make sure everybody's in the right seat on the bus and everybody wants to go where the bus is going. And if somebody on the bus wants to go here and there, you lose that synergy of getting the momentum for everybody. It becomes, and I think that back to you is a lot of relevance of your broker. What's the direction of the business of your broker and what's yours? And do they line up? Does that would that,
yeah,
you want to add on to that?
Sense. I mean, everybody will tell you that real estate's not exactly a team sport, but it can be.
In fact, I just
recently joined forces with a person, Jennifer Banner. She's my business partner now. She makes up for all of my shortfalls, and we're having the time of our lives. We're just having a great time. She's very social media savvy. She's got all of those items down, and I've been able to bring her on and bring some high profile listings to her portfolio. So it's been a really great win-win situation. She moved over from Sotheby's to Christie's with me as part of our team. And I think what's been great for me about Christie's is we're all out there. We've all got our cards on the table. Nobody's hiding anything from anybody. And it's all about just growing this company to a level that we want to see it grow to.
I love what you just said about real estate, is or isn't a team sport. I think it's a team sport I think with time, I would love to know what you think about this. You're in Aspen, I would wonder if maybe there are a lot more individual agents because of the level of the business that you're doing. And, they want you, and it gets more and more, you can't leverage out. You can leverage a lot of things, but you got to be there at the showings. You've got to show the property. You're not doing lot boxes. You're not, you're not going to send somebody else out to negotiate a $20 million deal. It's just not going to happen, because I think there are a lot of teams that are structured that way. But at the same time, teams seem to be becoming more and more relevant in our industry. Are you finding the same thing even in your market?
I've certainly found it in my practice to be the case. Yes. I don't know that there are tons of teams in our market. There are people who promote themselves as a team, but it's only a handful. We're the only team at Christie's, which again, I think gives us a distinct advantage because, not all personalities gel. And so if they don't, we can kind of trade off, one or the other. But most importantly for me, being an old school kind of guy, I just had no idea, nor did I have any inclination to jump into social media and grab that by the horns.
That's like not having a cell phone, for crying out loud, Mark. Come on.
Well, I just got a new one.
You're that successful, by the way, that you don't even need social media.
Well, it's a different beast for us because, Aspen's sort of a touchy-feely kind of situation. Nobody comes there because they got transferred there. Nobody has to move to Aspen. Everybody's there, when they want to be on their own terms and on their own accord. So there's more reliance, I think, on relationships in Aspen brokerages than there are in, other major metropolitan areas. And again, it's high stakes games. So you really want to have somebody that you can trust, somebody who's looking out for your back. And I've always adhered to those principles.
I like that trust keeps coming. Trust principles, values, those keep coming up over and over again. I like that.
Yeah, I think it has to in our business. Yeah. I think trust is the key word. If people can trust you, then they're going to refer you. And that's how I built my business.
Say that again. That was great.
If people trust
I can say it again. Yeah.
If people trust you, they'll refer people to you.
And that's how you built your business.
And that's how I built the business. Yeah. And again, what's great about that is the instant loyalty and the instant credibility. I don't have to go out and prove myself. Someone's thought highly enough of me to refer their friend to me, and all of a sudden, okay, well, obviously you're the guy then, Mark. If my guy thinks that my friend thinks that you're that great, then you're my guy, and that's how I built my practice.
I love that, and that brings me back to the print marketing, because I'm sure we're on the same page on this, but I'd love to hear you talk on it. Is that, when you're working with, the multi-million, billion-dollar client, they're not going to hire you because they saw an ad in a magazine. They're going to hire you because their friend said to use you. However, the print marketing and the ads are very important because it's about, first of all, getting exposure for your properties, but getting the branding and the presence and the relevance and the imprint in the market. I kind of like said it to everybody, but on that's where I'm going with that. But what is your 2 cents to add to that? And how do those pieces look and work for you? And how would you?
Yeah, one of the things I try to do with my listings is to make sure that my sellers don't call me first, right? Because if they call you first,
that's really good advice,
right?
Yeah.
So I always try to stay on top of that, and whether that be an email that just gives them an update on a monthly basis, or a phone call on a rare occasion. But if your seller's calling you first, then it's usually not good news when you pick up the phone.
And it's going to be a much longer, more painful phone call
that's right.
than if you had called them first.
That's exactly right. And they appreciate that, again, and there's a fine line there between bugging them and informing them. So I try not to bug them, but I try to stay relevant. I think relevance in our industry is really important. Being relevant, but not being overbearing. And that's discretionary. And I think it comes with an individualized situation. You can't treat every client the same way. You can't treat every seller the same way. Some sellers want more attention, some don't. Some just say, let me know when you get a contract. So it's situational. But again, I think for me, the most important thing is not to have them call me first.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to touch on the broker topic. We went back and forth a little, but they cross over a lot. A few things about the broker topic is you've been in business for 26 years and you've not changed much. When you've done it, it's not been on a whim, I don't think. It's been on and it's been in different phases of your career. So to kind of sum it up for everybody, what would your advice, because you've obviously made good decisions every time you've gone, or, or they've turned into good decisions. What is your advice to anyone or if you're thinking about a change, how do you know it's right? How do you make the decision? What are the mistakes you could make and what you consider a decision, and what are the important things to look at, and what is your advice?
Yeah, well, I would say if you think you want to make a change because it's going to make a difference in your business practice, it's probably not the right thing to do. If you're going to try to rely on a firm to make you a better broker, I think you need to rethink that position. You have to be the kind of broker that you set out to be. And if you do that, firms will come chase after you. And so I've never changed firms thinking that was going to make a big difference in my practice, and that, all of a sudden now I'm going to get all of these phone calls and walk-ins and things of that nature. Yeah. I've only changed when actually I've been recruited and the negotiating chip was on my side of the table, and I could hold out for the right position that I wanted. And as was the case in this last move, I wasn't going to move unless they offered me some sort of a partnership. And when they did, I felt like it was the right thing to do. You
made sure that the bus was going in the direction you were, taking you where you wanted to go.
That's right. I'm
doing this whole bus analogy, but that's what keeps coming to mind.
But it's true.
Aaron Kruger, Energy Bus, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Kruger, Everybody's the Agent. Energy Bus is the book. I don't remember the author of the book, but
right. But yeah. Only you can make a difference in your practice. Only you can make a difference in your business practice, and that's just a matter of attentiveness and again, I go back to the word trustworthy, but it's attentiveness, trustworthiness, and reliability. Those are the things that I think are the key. If you stay true to those attributes, I think everything will fall in place, and then you've got the ability to negotiate from a position of strength when you want to make a change, and you do it on your own terms.
Mm-hmm. And, brokers don't matter, but do they? Because there are brokers who might not align with your brand. There are brokers who might not align with your mission and your vision. And how do you, I know you know these things, everybody, I'm not correcting Mark Haldeman, don't worry, but how do you determine, what is your advice? And I think you're so far down the path of your career, but I just like to entertain this stuff because everybody, it's something people don't talk about much, and you've done it recently and you've done it well and you've done it gracefully. Any thoughts on that? Like, stay where you are, be the best you can be, and don't expect a broker to fix a problem. But a broker might enhance your talents and your abilities. And how do you know which broker that is, or what are your thoughts on if that is the case?
Right. Well, I think first and foremost, your broker needs to be looking out for your best interest, right? I've come from other situations where I was in competition with the managing broker or the owner of the company. And that becomes a very challenging situation, because when you're in my market, my biggest competitor was the owner of the company when I would go after high net worth listings. And so I transitioned from that into a situation where the managing broker and the owner of the company don't sell real estate, and they're only trying to enhance you and only trying to make you a better person. 3 weeks into my transition, the owner / managing broker came into my office and said, "We need to go to lunch." And I said, "Oh my God, what did I do wrong?" He said, you didn't do anything wrong. I just want to take you to lunch and make sure that I'm doing everything that I can do to make you a better broker. And I was like, huh? It just was such a foreign thing for me. So I really feel, blessed to be in that situation where I've actually got an owner and a managing broker who is looking out for my best interest.
That's great. That's a great analogy. It's sometimes the little things that you don't see or know in a situation that's going to make it better or worse. So
No question. Yeah, no question. And like I say, these guys have been chasing me for a while, and I knew what they stood for. They had a great reputation in our town. Their brokers were all top drawer people, top notch guys and gals, and it was just something that I felt comfortable being aligned with.
That's awesome. Anything else you want to add to that before I ask? I don't remember when we did the first interview if I was even doing the final three, but you're going to get them, and don't worry, they're easy. Okay. But anything we should add to that before I ask you the final three?
Again, I think the basic principles in real estate: stay true to your beliefs, stay true to yourself, be trustworthy, have integrity. Integrity is a big thing for me as well. I think you can't buy integrity. You have to prove yourself out in the field. And once you do, as long as you stay true to yourself and do what you say you're going to do, the rest will all fall into place, in my opinion.
You can't buy integrity. You've got to prove yourself in the field.
That's correct.
I like that. I'm writing this down, everybody, so bear with me. Okay, that's kind of the last three, the final three, but I'm going to hit you with it again.
Go ahead.
We'll see if there's anything else to add. Okay, number one, is there a tool that you use in this business other than your phone? It can be technology. It can be, I'm trying to think of something right now. It can be something that you do. It can be an event that you hold. It can be anything. It's some kind of tool or action you take that's the most powerful thing you do in your business.
Yeah, I think that, again, the thing that this is going to sound a little bit redundant, but I think the thing that sets me apart from most of the brokers in my industry is that I'm not ego-driven in any way, shape, or form. I have integrity. I try to stand for trustworthiness. I do what I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do it, and those things have always been, to me, way more instrumental than any sort of marketing tool or any sort of client capture info tool or any sort of thing of that nature. I've just always tried to stand for those values, and those values, I think, stand out in our market.
Not ego driven is the first thing you said.
Right.
I love how that sums it up. Is there a book that you would recommend, of any book, to us to read? And if you got a couple, that's all right. We'll take them.
Is there a book? Oh, gosh.
I don't know if you remember what mine is, but I'm not even going to get it. Never split the difference, just saying. Anyway, but what is yours?
I don't really have anything off the top of my head that I could add for that. A book that has made a significant difference in my life. The books that I read are mostly novels for entertainment and just to kind of...
How about, because there's got to be, like, what inspires you? What keeps you focused? What keeps you on task? What keeps your perspective? Is it meditation? Is it a speaker? Is it anything like that?
I've gone down the road with some success coaches and over the years, and that's made a huge difference in my life. We spoke earlier about saying what you know, as opposed to what you think someone wants to hear.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things that my success coaches were always very adamant about. The answer. Stay true to that answer. Don't tell them. The only way that you can serve your clients is by being true to your beliefs and not telling them what you think they want to hear. That's patronizing clients, and that's not serving clients. And so success coaches have been instrumental in my life in putting me on the right track in that regard. And I think it's led to a huge success for me.
I love that. Last question. You kind of answered it, but we're doing it again, just in case. We don't want to miss anything. If there's one thing you would hope we take away from this interview, if we were going to forget everything else, what would that one thing be?
I would say have integrity, be trustworthy, establish yourself as the broker that people can trust in the market. And I think if you do that, if you prove to be trustworthy, if you prove to have integrity, success will naturally come to you. I think there's no advertising dollars can pay for that. You have to earn that out in the field, and you have to pay your dues in order to do it. And if you can cross that threshold, success will naturally come to you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.